All right, everyone, and we are live with a very special presentation for hashtag Indie Summer, and this is a special indie author website workshop. That's a mouthful, but so is the actual title, Wielding the Power of Author Websites. And this is a special representation, special presentation of a W Academy workshop that we did last year. And I'm very excited to bring it to you today for free, no strings attached, of course, except that you get to spend the next 2 hours with me talking about websites, which is very exciting, but also very intimidating. And I get if you're more in the latter camp than the former camp. But before we get into that, as with any workshop that we do, we're going to give a few minutes to let everybody roll in, make sure that everyone's saying hi, make sure you're comfortable, go get yourself a drink of water, go answer the call to nature if you have to, though you have the privilege, the luxury of being able to get up and move around during this, unlike me. But enough bathroom humor. Let's see who's in the chat here. I saw that Reed got here very early, had to get that #1 spot in to make sure the seats didn't fill up in our virtual YouTube environment. Reed, I appreciate the commitment. And I hope you weren't maimed too much by the anticipation. Journey's also here, also got in very early. Hello, Journey. NJ and Athena, hello. DA, hello. Let me keep scrolling. TW's in. Good evening to those who are over in Europe or Africa. In parts of Asia, it's probably morning now, is it not? Anyway, wherever you're from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm really happy that you could be joining me here. I see B is with us. David's here. Who else do I have hanging out? Abby's here. And Abby can answer some questions as we go along. And Abby did find that there's a top fan badge that YouTube just gives away depending on how much you chat. The scoring seems arbitrary and fickle, but I always strive to be #1 when I'm on that side of the screen. Okay, let's see. Did I say hello to Athena? I'm not totally sure, but hello. And Star is here. Always a pleasure to see Star. Welcome. Beth is here as well. Hi, Beth. And let me keep. I think I've covered everyone. Okay. Star saying that's why I've been more neutral in greeting if you don't know the folks, so it's hard sometimes. All right. Yes, it is. It's afternoon for me, but I know we have an international audience, especially at this time slot. So I'm just glad you were able to join us, no matter where you are joining from. Let's see. We'll give another couple minutes here before we get going. In the chat, if you're joining us or if you're watching this afterwards, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have an author website, if you're building an author website, or if it's just something you haven't thought about or is so intimidating you have not tackled yet. And we'll go from there. I personally have been rebuilding mine for a while now, ever since I actually did this workshop the first time around. But now I actually hired someone to do it, which is something we're going to talk about. You do not need to do that. Okay, you do not need to hire somebody to build a website for you. And I do believe in yesterday's video, Abby went through some of the steps that make it clear how easy it can be to build on something like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or even WordPress to an extent. There's more customization on WordPress. But now my website designer is waiting on copy from me, and I've been a bad client. And now that's more immemorialized on the internet. Okay, let's see what's going on in. Oh, Athena saying Brits don't like considering it Europe. Well, yeah. Substack. Does Substack count as an author website? No. And as Star says here, I'd count it more as social media. It's like this social media newsletter kind of hybrid. And I'll explain why I don't consider it a website as we get into it. But it's not bad to have. It's just another way of building a community and reaching them. Erica, hello. DA Brandon doesn't have one. B is trying to redo yours. Beth launched yours last month. That's awesome. Journey's had one for a year now. Awesome. Renee, welcome. I'm glad you could join us. Antoine wants one, but it's kind of daunting, and I don't blame you for that, but I'm hoping if I had one goal in this workshop, is to show you that to make a good author website, you don't need a lot of things. You only need a few mandatory ingredients, and even within those ingredients, they just need to be formatted in a way that's not offensive to the eye. And with templates and examples out there, and with things letting you drag and drop in most website builders these days, it's easier than ever to build a good looking website that serves the function that we as indie authors need it to serve. And Jay, I do not want questions in all caps. Star is working on redeveloping the coding skills. You want to make it your not writing career. That's impressive and something I cannot do. All right. Erica struggled with WordPress for years, so maybe you should try something different. Yes, I use Squarespace. I started using it 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. I've tried WordPress for work. We now use, I can't remember what we use for Dabble now. We used to use WordPress. We use something different. We have for a few years. And I've used a couple different ones, both for school and for different jobs that I've had. And just we don't cover the extensive list here. Actually, I don't go into it much at all, but Squarespace, Weebly, Wix, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. But those, search drag and drop website editors or website builders, and you'll find those are the biggest platforms. Squarespace is generally more expensive than the other ones, but it's nicer. It looks more impressive. It has a lot of nice features and great customer support. But the others have great advantages too. NJ asking which website builders are free and functional. If you look at Wix and Weebly, you can generally get a free plan that will say something like njwest.weebly.com. And you only have to pay when you move out of that .weebly part and just make it njwest.com. Squarespace does not have a free option last time I checked. You do get a trial to start, but they don't have a njwest.squarespace.com free option. That may have changed. I didn't look, in the last couple of days. But for a long time, and if not still, they didn't have a free option like that. Renee doesn't have a website as of yet. Okay, excellent. WordPress is most vexing, says Journey. Yeah. And Star saying, I will say that paying for a domain name is a good idea for marketing purpose. Yes. Yeah, you want to make sure you get a good domain name. But you are jumping the gun, Star. Sorry, I can't remember if you were around when we did this the first time, but let me know if you were. Let me know if you have seen this workshop before, because we have put it on. It was just about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. It was one of the first workshops we ever did. So, and Athena saying there are cyber training kits on WordPress vulnerabilities out there. I'm saying so far away from that one. I will say, not to, add dread to this conversation, but any website builder is going to have vulnerabilities. WordPress might have more because it's the most common and has so many different options that you can put into it that there's different ways to get in. But yeah, if that's something that concerns you, and rightfully so, it could, then you can avoid that one. And start join on the Black Friday. No. Okay. So this is new. Excellent. TW attended before. It was great. Back for more. Love it. Okay, here we go. We've been gabbing for long enough. Let me pop this workshop up on the screen here. If this is your first time attending a workshop with me, it is a longer workshop. Like I said, we're going to be here for about 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer with Q&A and some, gabbing back and forth. But it's pretty in-depth. If we need a break sometime in the middle, we can take one. We can take like a 5-minute break. But otherwise, we're just here for a good time. All right, here we go. Let me pull up everything that I need to pull up. Let me have a sip of my cold brew. Coffee is not good for the throat, so I have water as well, but I just need some caffeine today. If you catch me slipping, it's because I'm not caffeinated enough. NJ, I hope you can stay for all of it too. All right, let's dive into it, wielding the power of author websites. On our agenda today, we're going to talk about why we need a website, your purpose for the website and your audience, the essential elements of a website, and I really want you to focus here on what is essential. That's where we're going to make it seem a lot less daunting, because there are indie authors everywhere building websites, and they're doing it successfully, and they are not doing super flashy video with cool animations, and they are still making 5 or 6 figure salaries with their books. We're going to talk a little bit about SEO and discoverability. This is a little more high level stuff, so we're just going to touch on it, but I can't do a website workshop without mentioning it. Then we're going to talk about how you can maximize your website's potential. And when we're talking about maximizing, we're mostly talking about income for that one. Then we have time for Q&A at the end. And yes, B is saying it's always available to watch later if you can't. And because this is not part of, the paid W Academy experience, it will be here on YouTube, at least for the foreseeable future. We might take it down in September once the challenge is over, but that's not decided yet. Okay, who am I? I recognize a lot of people here, but if you do not recognize me, if this is the first time we're meeting, then hi, I'm Doug. I've been working here at Dabble for 4 years now, 4+ years. I've written over 100 articles. I've edited most of the articles that are not mine on Dabble U. I've written 2 ebooks with Dabble. I am the dean of Dabble U Academy, which we'll talk about on the next slide here. I host some live events here on our YouTube channel, including writing sprints, the occasional fireside chat, other content that we want to do. Personally, I have 5 books out there. 3 of them were #1 new releases. One of them was a #1 bestseller. I write dark fantasy, urban fantasy. I have a horror first draft that is waiting there for when I finish everything else that I need to do. And on top of that, I'm a husband, a dog dad, an editor, and a nerd. Susan, hello, welcome. So I say here I'm the Dean of W Academy. If also says it right here underneath my name on the screen. Thanks, Journey. What is W Academy? W Academy is an experience, a service, I don't know, an academy offered by Dabble. That's the brainchild of myself and Robert and Abby and Hank, and a lot of things coming together. That includes access to our course library that's growing every month, includes monthly live workshops just like this one. This was an academy workshop back when we just called it Dabble Premium. But we do a workshop every month live at the end of the month, and then you have access to all the recordings of that. As of the time of this workshop, we have over 40 hours of workshop recordings in the library as well. We have monthly office hours. We have a community of like-minded authors, and within that community, we have cool community events. Tomorrow is World Building Wednesday, where I get to drop a world building lesson over in our community at W Campus. We have a bonus newsletter, and we have extra resources that you get in the W Academy. You can join W Academy either directly through dabbleU.com and signing up that way, or if you're a Dabble Premium subscriber, you get access to the Academy included. Right now, and this may change, so if you're watching this a couple months from now, these prices might not be accurate, but to get into W Academy, you can get in for $20 a month, or with Dabble Premium right now, you can get in for $29 a month. That gives you everything that Dabble Writer has to offer, plus access to the Academy. And if you aren't part of the Academy and you have the means to, I think that's very important. If you have the means to join us, I would love to see you in our future workshops in the community, taking those courses, growing as an author, because the whole point of my job and the whole point of this academy is to help you achieve your dreams. It's take you from writer to author and make sure that you have the tools and knowledge and expertise that you need in order to write the book that you want to write. All right, enough of that though. I should be more salesy in my job. I hate selling, but I do genuinely believe that the Academy is a very cool thing to join, to participate in, to learn from. Otherwise, I wouldn't put my face behind it. But we will move on with our expectations for this workshop. And with every workshop that I put on, there are 3 expectations. The first is that you ask questions. This is an open forum. We have time for Q&A at the end. I said we're going for 2 hours, but I'm here for at least 3 hours afterwards, because that's my work day. So if you have questions and you want to hang around in the Q&A period, or if you ask a question that's directly relevant to what we're talking about, take the time to answer it. That leads into number 2, collaborate. Everyone has their own experiences and expertise, and something that might be different than what I know, or might fill in gaps in my own knowledge. So if you see a question being asked, or if you want to add something to a conversation, please feel free. If you want to add something to what I've said just for accountability, and you don't want me to reference it, you don't want me to put it on screen, put a little asterisk in front of it. That tells me that I can look at it, but I'm not going to do anything with it. That's just for accountability, or if you want to share, but you don't want that spotlight. And then last but not least, this has never been an issue, but be kind. I don't tolerate any kind of hate, any kind of bringing each other down, any kind of being rude. We're here for a good time. We're here to learn. We're here because we have this shared passion and we want to explore it together. So just be kind. Like you get maybe one warning. If I'm feeling generous, You'll get one warning. Otherwise, you just get the boot. Okay. So going into this, I don't want you to think websites are too technical for me. I don't want you to think that you don't need a website, and I don't want you to think that websites aren't worth the time, because these are all categorically untrue, right? Even the least technical savvy among us, there are ways to build your own website in a format that looks pleasing and gets the job done. Instead, I want you to think that a website has the potential to be one of your best marketing tools, and it's easier than ever to make. And I want you all thinking this by the time we're done here. All right. We're going to start with part one, and that's the why behind author websites. But before we go on, I'm going to take another sip of my coffee here, maybe some water too. But I'm going to ask you, why do you think we need a website? Like, what's the point of having a website? Go ahead, drop what you think in the chat. There's no right or wrong answers here. I just kind of want to get a temperature check of where we're at. I didn't notice this comment before because my presenter screen was in the way. So let me adjust this. But Renee said, the build sites, I used to build sites on WordPress. Squarespace drives you nuts because there isn't enough control compared to WordPress. And you'll find the same with Wix or Weebly or any of the other free ones, which is fair. But I will counter that with saying, if you have the experience to build websites, then sure, go ahead, do something on WordPress or do something in another tool that you're comfortable with. Squarespace and Wix and Weebly, I'm just going to call them the drag and drop website builders. The drag and drop website builders give you the capacity to make everything that we need for a functional and good looking website for indie authors. And I'll show you some examples as we go through. Okay. Let's see. B saying, so we can't pretend to be a little bunny foo-foo. DA Brandon saying, honestly, I don't know, which is completely fair. Erica saying, optimize our viewership. Okay. Let's see. The chat's scrolling for me, so I gotta try and keep up here. Websites make it easy to sell books without giving most royalties to Amazon. Interesting. Okay. Star website is like a billboard that's focused on you and you alone, plus having something that is yours and yours alone helps add credibility. That's something we're going to come back to a handful of times through this, actually. Read, I need a website to signal the mothership. Journey, to put yourself out, put yourself and your work out there and provide reference for people who are curious about your work. You know what? I'm going to try enabling something here, and that's going to let future chat messages populate on the screen, which will be helpful for people watching after. If we find that it gets in the way of the content, then we'll turn it off. But sometimes people don't like me not showing all the messages, and I often forget to turn this feature on. B, I put mine up so that a book buyer knows who I am and can hopefully follow me and buy more books. Susan, to help grow your audience. Excellent journey, drag and drop. I couldn't resist. Athena, I've seen authors use websites to sell directly to readers, and it's the best thing ever as it takes away the middleman, especially if you have the reach. I'm going to actually pop that up on the screen so people can focus on it, because this means, oh, true. Sorry, you're right. The asterisk will be rendered null and void. I won't focus on it. So like I won't discuss it. I won't draw attention to it. But just like if anyone were to watch the live chat replay or the live replay, they would see the content in the chat still. So we can't hide it that way, unfortunately. But if it is something that, hey, multiple people want the on-screen one taken down, then we can take it down. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But as Athena pointed out, direct sales is one of the main features of a website. And when we talk about really optimizing your website or maximizing it, that's one of the things that we're going to discuss. And NJ saying, build your base of readers and followers, advertise yourself, create a following, and as a result, a more steady income when they buy your work. That's a heck of an answer, and it encompasses a lot of the right stuff. All right, so cool, a wide spread there. So let's get into it. No more dilly-dallying. or silly sallying, as some people say. All right. So the number one reason that you need a website, and there are other reasons, but you have complete control over your content, data, and platform. It was Star, I believe, who said, let me scroll back up. A website's like a billboard that's focused on you and you alone, which is great. But plus having something that is yours and yours alone helps add credibility. And it's not just credibility that it being yours and yours alone is important for. It's you can spend more time on social media and become very successful on it and sell a lot of books on social media. We see that on TikTok, especially with genres like romantasy. There are people who have exploded on TikTok or through Instagram Reels in the romantasy genre, especially because of their use of social media. They've really nailed it, and they are experts at it, and they've been paid for it. They've sold a lot of books for it, which is fantastic. But it was funny. The first time that I ran this workshop was the time when there was a bill being floated around in the United States that would ban TikTok entirely, right? And there was panic when that happened, because if your entire income is derived from your success on TikTok, TikTok being banned means that your income goes to zero. There are people who have been very prolific advertising on Facebook, and then Facebook will change something in their algorithm and the ads are no longer as effective, or they're 10% as effective. 90% of your income is gone, right? And so when we rely on other platforms, we can leverage them, we can make the most out of them, but they are not ours. We don't have control over them. We are at the whims of other people. And so that means that those things can change, and that can affect our livelihood, that can affect our financial security, that can affect our future as an author. A website being your platform, the only thing you're really at the whims of are the platforms that you use to host it. And time again, those platforms have proven that unless you do something particularly egregious, they're not going to change anything on you. They're not going to boot you off, right? So this is your platform. No one else has a say on it. People who come there and give you their information, I either email, and we'll talk about newsletter lists later, you get that information. It's not held by a third party for you to ask for when you need it. It is yours, and you have direct contact with them, and you control what happens on your website. Yeah, and Star saying public policy forcing change is a huge issue for some folks in certain relevant genres, let's say right now. Not to call out the UK, but there is there's is it being passed or was it passed? But something going on where you have to, in certain circumstances, prove your age via submitting your identity to access certain sites, right? When you own a website, now I don't know I don't know how that legislation impacts individual websites. Okay. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a public policy person. But that, for example, let's say Facebook put the same thing in. You need to submit your identification in order to access romance authors or see romance ads. That's huge. There goes an entire chunk of your readership or potential readership, right? Yeah. Yeah, I get it, Star. Okay, let me. Yeah, B saying I put up a business Facebook page allows me to sell my books there, which is great. And I encourage people to leverage social media if they have the bandwidth for it and they understand it. But Facebook can turn around and ban your page. It can turn around and change its algorithm so that it's already tough enough for an author's Facebook page, the post to reach our fans, right? Even if people are following you, Facebook prioritizes certain posts over others and is increasingly feeding different kinds of information to people that aren't just the people that they're following. So we don't want to be at the whims of a third party. When we have a website, we have complete control over it, and that is a good thing as an author. Okay. So there are other ways that a website helps, and we covered a lot of them in the answers here, but it helps establish your online presence and your author brand, connects you with your readers. It lets you become more discoverable, at least potentially. It allows you to market and promote your work, and it allows you to monetize your writing in ways other than just sending people to Amazon. So Before you start working on a website, though, I want you to ask yourself two different questions. And feel free to answer these questions in the chat as well. First, what is your goal? And second, who is your ideal audience? Okay. Now, when it comes to goals, your goal might be reader engagement, book sales, mailing list signups, event promotion, discoverability, or you might want to woo agents or media personalities. As an indie author, I can tell you that these first three are your biggest goals. And we'll talk about this more and more, especially when we look at websites. This one here, I should have put it at the top, to be honest. Mailing list signups is generally going to be your number one goal. We'll explain why in a little bit. But these three for indie authors are the big ones. These ones are important, maybe minus the wooing agents. If you're dedicated to the indie path, you don't particularly care about agents, but this one in particular is, or for media personalities, is for more established authors. These two are very niche and take a lot of effort. Where we're at, where most indies are at, are these three. Even when you're making 5 or 6 figure salaries, these three are the ones that you're looking at. B's goal is self-promotion and sales, recognition to readers so that they know I'm real, not AI. Excellent. I will say too, we can do it all eventually, even wooing agents and media personalities, if that's something that you want to do. But you don't try and tackle all of those when you first set out. If you have 6 different goals, yep, 6 different goals, then you aren't going to be effective trying to approach all 6 at the same time. Rather, especially if you're starting out in your indie journey, you want to pick one goal in particular and focus your website on that. We also need to figure out who your audience is. And so there are generally three different audiences that you want to target: your readers, your agents, or the media. And when I initially made this workshop, it was for both traditionally and indie published authors, or people who wanted to pursue either path. And I decided to include these last two in it just so you are aware of the different options out there. But again, as an indie author, your focus is going to be on the readers here generally. Let's see what's going on in the chat. NJ, my goal is to create wholesome content in every genre that anyone can enjoy and bring people together through the power of story. I love that as a goal for you, NJ. What is the goal of your website, though? Star, for now, it's primarily self-promotion. I want a place where I can also do long-form updates, blog posts, etc. Awesome. We'll talk about blogs a little bit further on. B, my audience is my stories span a range, kids, first readers, all the way up to adult. And that's definitely doable. But you really want to, again, the more narrow we can be in our focus, the easier it's going to be for our websites to do the things that we want it to do. And especially, like, you may be writing books for kids, but adults are buying those books for the kids, right? So you want to figure out who's reading your books, and then we'll focus your website on that. But everyone you identified, a reader. Let's see. Beth, building an audience and discoverability. I'm focusing the site on things that inspire me so I can post fun, engaging content without limiting myself to one book. Awesome. B's doing mostly fantasy. Love it. Star saying you do stuff for an adult audience, have concerns about social media stability, which is completely fair, especially for the long form content. You're right. Most social medias are not built for that. And NJ, that's okay. Go ahead, answer when you can. So for most of us, if your site is for readers, ask yourself some questions. What do your readers care about? What do they want from you? And how can you make it worth their time? If you've heard me talk in sprints or in workshops or in live streams before, I often talk about this promise that we make to readers that everything we do is worth their time. And that's normally talking about a story. Everything we include, all the prose that we include, the exposition, the dialogue, the plot lines, we have to make it worth their time. That's why we don't want to sprinkle in any extraneous stuff that leads to nowhere. The same is true for your website. They're coming to you with a particular goal in mind, either to buy one of your books or learn about who you are. So how do we make it worth their time when they hit our website? Are we putting things in their way that make it more difficult for them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve and that we want them to achieve. Apologies for that. NJ said, goal is outreach. I'm terrible at advertising myself on a website that I control directly seems the best way to start. I'm going to pop this up, not to pick on you, NJ, and you know I never would. But this part where you say I'm terrible at advertising myself is like a chronic disease amongst indie authors, especially early in your author journey, indie authors. And I hate promoting myself. It's the worst. That slide a little bit back where I talk about the books that I have released and the accolades that I have, it took some effort for me to include that the first time and not cringe when I was reading it. Right? It's a lot of us don't like promoting ourselves. And so we use our website to do that, but we have to get over that hurdle because even if you think, yeah, I'm going to use my website to do it as a proxy for me, I'm going to show you an example where someone, an indie author, and again, I'm not going to be picking on her because she's lovely, but I want to show you what happens if you don't put promotion of yourself first and how that impacts a reader's navigation of your site. Erica asking, can it be about my work and my writing / book? You can make your website about whatever you want it to be, but again, we want to focus in on the goal of the website: newsletter signups, reader engagement, or selling books. Right? And so you can include the other stuff, but how does that add to the reader experience? If you want to make a personal blog about your work, you can do that. You can write stuff for your website to add on to the experience, or you can use that for email newsletters. You can use it for social media posts, what have you. But we always need to think about what the goal of our website is. I see there's something going on here about multiple domain names. Okay. B, split your homepage between B Draconia and Cherry Write so the visitor can choose or explore their own need depending on the author name. And that's something, who was it? Oh my goodness, I'm kicking myself. We had an author early on, Hank's going to know her name, who did a workshop for Dabble Premium, now Dabble U Academy, who writes like hockey romance, but also I think mafia romance, maybe, and splits the pen name between the two. Or some people will write fantasy and have a romance pen name as well. And they link to the different websites, but you have to be aware of the audience coming to your website. If you're writing romance and fantasy, and B, I'm not saying this is you, but if you're writing those two things, there's not a lot of overlap. Even romantasy readers don't stray too far into those different categories. So if you're writing romantasy, different. But if you're writing high fantasy and hockey romance, you don't want those on those same website because your readers aren't going there for the same journey. They're going to get confused. They're going to be like, what's going on here? And then they're going to get a little lost, not buy your book. But you can link, other books by or under the pen name, however you want to phrase it. I'll try and find the website and I'll post it in the community later, and link to a separate website. But you don't want very opposing genres or age categories sharing space on your homepage. And we'll look at good homepages in a few moments here. Okay. If your site's for agents, you treat it like a portfolio. You think about what's going to make you stand out, and you want to really highlight any awards or media profiles that you've got. If you're trying to woo an agent with your website, then it's basically like an online interactive resume. You really want to sell yourself. And if it's for the media, first ask yourself, are you ready to focus your efforts here? If you're watching this for Indie Summer, odds are you are not. I'm not even ready to focus my efforts there because I want to get more books out before I tackle something like wooing the media, right? But if you do, you want to make sure you have a media kit. You want to make sure that your website is professional, it's easy to navigate, you're doing things to make yourself more visible. You want to include things like a booking calendar, but that's a more in-depth conversation beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. Okay, so that's the why. That's all the theory behind it. And as we go through this, and we're going to check out some author websites in a few slides here, but I really want you to think about the audience that you're targeting and what the goal of your website is. Who do you want arriving on your website, and what do you want them to do once they get there? In marketing, we call this a journey, like a customer journey. And you really want to map out what's going on once someone hits your website. More than that, you want to make sure it's as easy as possible. The more clicks you make someone do, the less likely they are to do the thing that you want. Okay? So keep that in mind. But let's talk about the essential elements of an author website. Media kit. Sorry, you're right. Most of Dabble's customers are writing their first book or writing their first, or their second or third book, right? Early in their career. And if you're participating in Indie Summer, especially, you're probably just starting to write or finishing or preparing your first indie published book, or maybe your second or third one. That's not the time when you want to really drill down on media appearances. You can. I love going on podcasts. I've been on like public access interviews. I've done blog tours. It's a ton of fun, but it pales in comparison to the joy and the ROI, the return on investment of writing another book. Right? So until you get really deep into your author journey, it's not as important. Okay, B was Googling something. Okay, that's okay. Okay. So every author website needs these 5 things. And truthfully, you only need these 5 things. Okay. A homepage, very important. A books page, and then potentially within that, a page for each book. A header and footer. That's not just the structure of a website, like you're going to have that anyway, but they play an important role. An about or bio page, and then a contact page. Okay. And then some author websites need a blog or a news page, a media or press kit, and then an events or appearances page. So we're going to look at some websites now. And bear with me here while I rearrange my screen so that I can get them up. Journey, if you don't have any books actually published, how do you handle your books page? I'm going to save that for after we go through these, because I think a lot of people are in that boat, whether watching now or joining us afterwards. And it's an easy fix until you have a book out there. But yeah, coming soon and upcoming books, that's something that you can do for sure, especially if you have a landing page set up. But we'll talk about that more after this little segment here. So let's start with TA White. I often share TA White's website when I'm talking about websites because, in my opinion, this is basically the epitome of what an indie author needs for a website, and then some. Okay, there are cool little things. Yeah, you can see my mouse. So like this curve here, that's a little extra. You might not be able to do that with one of the drag and drop website builders. So it could be a straight line. And I think the first time that I did this workshop, it actually was a straight line. I think TA White updated their website in between. But everything that is on this website is essentially what you need to make a good website. And then there's some extras. So let's dissect it, right? We have at the top here what is often called a hero image. And it is TA White's latest book. And this part, I just bragged about how great this is. This part here isn't the best copy that I would want. If this was your website, you would have your book. Let's say you just released your first book. The name of the book, a punchline about it, very bold, punchy 1 or 2 liner. And then, read now. Learn more is a little bit of a weaker call to action, but essentially you want book cover, nice background there, punchy words here, and then read now or buy now. Something that tells a visitor this book is for sale, go and get it. Okay. Then you have, as we scroll down, more books by TA White. And this isn't just like, go buy these books. Here are links that you can click on. But when you land on this site, you don't just see the hero image and the call to action. You see that there's more to read. If I start getting invested in this author, I have more stuff to dive into. And that's very compelling. Readers today are voracious. They are insatiable. They like to find an author, devour everything they have, and then move on, like a plague of locusts. But one that we like. We love our plague of locusts. Uh, I should not have said that. That's going to come back to bite me sometime. But if you scroll down this website, you see that there are multiple series to get into. It's all broken up nicely. It all has a little bit of, sales copy there, and it all has a call to action button to get you to go learn more, right? Individual books, but also about the series. There's a lot of books that T.A. White has written. Then you keep scrolling, there's an about section. There's what we call social proof. These are excerpts from reviews that T.A. White's highlighting. And then you have a little bit of bonus content, which I love. Stuff from the blog, and then the footer with the sign up list. There's a lot on this homepage. Your homepage is probably going to be a fraction of this length, and we'll look at some that are a lot shorter. But if you have this many books, this is a great website, right? This is a great way to show how much you have. And then again, we want a little bit about the author, but you'll notice, aside from this, again, I'm not a huge fan of this. Everything else, until you scroll really far down, is about the books. It is not about the author. We get to learn about the author as we get further down, but remember your audience and your goal. Your readers, potential readers, are coming to your website. Our goal is not to educate the website visitor about us when we know they're looking for a book to read. Okay, our goal is to make it as easy as possible to get our book into their hands so that they can read it. Susan, we're part of that plague of locusts because writers are often readers too. Absolutely. Okay, so there's a lot good going on here. And let me just make sure. Some design things to note, look at all this white space. White space doesn't have to be white, right? It's just blank space that helps it look clean, that makes sure nothing looks too cluttered. Even here where there's a background image, this is all nice white space that's just stylized with the background image, okay? If you don't have this technical capacity to do this kind of background thing, a line here, just a divider line, would work just as well for your first website, okay? Some other great stuff is this bonus info down here, a little bit about upcoming releases, some extras that you can get, a glossary that you can get. And then if we go to, let's go here. You're going to find time and again that this is what a book web page looks like, okay? A cover, either on the left or right, maybe the series name if it's part of a series, the title, information, and then links to buy. If we keep scrolling down, social proof to reinforce this book is worth their time, and then other books in the series, okay? This is all you need for a book page on your website. In fact, what you see now above the fold is what we call it, and we're going to revisit the homepage to talk about the fold too. But above the fold, what you see when you first come on, this is technically all you need for a very effective book web page. Series, if it's relevant, title, information, link to buy, and the cover. That's it. That's why it's so easy to make a website that is effective, because any drag and drop website builder gives you the capacity to easily make a page like this. Okay, it might take you maybe an hour to learn how, another hour to put it together, if that. This is pretty straightforward stuff. It will take longer to figure out the copy that you want to write than it will to build something that looks like this. Okay. And then you can reinforce it with social proof, and you can add in parts of the series or other books you have available to make it easy for your reader to navigate to buy more from you. Okay, let's go back here. So I mentioned the fold before, and I think Abby might talk about this in her video that went out yesterday. But readers, when not just readers, when someone lands on a website, you have something like 7 to 10 seconds to convince them to stay. And that's why we do something like a hero image with bold text, a nice picture there, and an easy call to action. You also need to realize that people, when they hit a website, whether it's an article or just a normal website, they read in an F pattern. They start in the top left, and most of their attention is on that top line and going over. Then the second most attention is a little bit down and a little bit to the right. And then as you get further and further down, they stop going to the right as much and their attention fades. At the bottom of the F, almost no one makes it there. So stuff that's above the fold, stuff that appears when a website first loads, is where they will divert most or where they'll spend most of their attention. Everything down here, you can only expect a small percentage of website viewers to actually look at, which is why we focus so much on this. This is more relevant than this. Okay, this is nice to have and can net more sales and shows that you're a very prolific author. But when you're building your website, this hero image here with the call to action and then what you can see right under that before the fold is the most important stuff that you really want to focus on. Okay. And so for that, I always suggest, and I think it's best practice, pick the book that you want to sell the most, your first book, your new release, whatever, and focus that there. Don't focus on anything but that, because again, our audience, our readers, and our goal is generally to sell a book, but it could also be to build our newsletter list, which is where the header comes in. And you have this, almost every website builder gives you the option to have a clear call to action in the header. You're generally going to make that either buy my book or sign up for my newsletter. Okay. And in this case, sign up. We click on it. Super easy to sign up. Journey spends many hours procrastinating with book research, also known as scouring bookstores. All right. Let's look at another one here. Okay. I talked about this one before, but again, I don't want to call anyone out. I met Emma at a farmer's market the other day, and Emma is very sweet. And I don't, by pointing out things to improve on, I'm not trying to be mean here, because Emma's doing very well as an indie. Like she's young, she's written a lot of books, she's doing everything right. But I want to show you where some mistakes were made so you don't make the same mistakes. I feel kind of bad saying that, but like only because I met her. If I hadn't met her, this would be a lot easier. But if we're thinking about what we just said, which is that F pattern and the things above the fold and how we focus on our audience and our goal, this website starts with a bit about who Emma is, and then just above the fold, and if you had a smaller screen or you were on mobile, you wouldn't even see this, but the next thing is check out the blog. You have to scroll pretty far down to see information about the new release and the books. First, shout out, because these covers, these special edition covers, fantastic. They are so good. But if our goal is to sell books, we're asking too much for a reader, which sounds silly, but we're asking too much to be like, you land on this website, you need to scroll all the way down here to find this information. And then Star just said here, you want to keep pain points to a minimum. If your viewer gets confused, you're going to lose them. Look what happens if I want to purchase Silent Night. It comes here. Okay, purchase my books. What format or option are you buying for? Ebooks. And then it comes to here, and then it's not even obvious. You have to read this to see, okay, I have to click this, and you don't see it, but it pops me out to a books to read homepage so that it can direct me to my preferred vendor of choice. If we go back to TA White here, buy the book. Amazon's the only option because 99% of your purchases, unless you're campaigning actively for another platform or for direct sales, or through Amazon. You click it, it brings you to the page on Amazon. That's one click from the book page rather than 3 or 4, right? We really want to minimize those friction points, because every single click that your potential reader has to make is one more time when they're likely to be diverted away and not buy your book. Okay. Let me just get myself organized here. Okay. Here's Fonda Lee. I'm actually going to refresh this just so we see what happens. This is a very simple landing page, but for an indie author, like if you're going to build your website, this is all you really need your homepage to be. Now, you have the hero image. It could have more in it. It could have a punchy sales line. Instead, it has links to different places to buy it, which is fine, and then learn more, buy the book. It's a little too many options going on here. And then underneath that, you have who is Fonda, what's new, newsletter. That's actually the footer. Okay. I can't scroll down. There's nowhere else to go. If I move my mouse off of here, this is a carousel. Carousels seem nice in theory. They are proven to be very ineffective. Now, this carousel is actually going at like Mach speed, which is something else I don't particularly like about the website. But when it comes to a carousel that's moving at an appropriate speed, you're very unlikely to have someone see what's on the third slide of it, even the second slide of it before they navigate away, right? Which is why generally we advocate for people to have a static hero image so that it can really just be explosive and tell people where they need to go, what they need to do. The green is too dark to stand out, but it is very, it depends, it's very genre appropriate. I think as Star said there, yeah. Lee's Pace is design wise specifically curated to her or catered to her genre. I'm really messing up the words today. When you land on here, you know this is sci-fi, right? You know what you're getting into. So that's a design choice. Some people might not like the green, but that's fine. If we go here to Jade City, you'll find it's not necessarily as aesthetically pleasing as whites, but you have the same format. Book, punchy, marketing copy, the description, and then links to buy it, right? And if you keep scrolling, a heck of a lot of social proof. Arguably too much social proof, but hey, is there ever really too much? It's up to them to keep scrolling past this if they want to read it all. Really, it's just like, hey, look at all the stuff that I've done that makes me worth reading. But remember what we looked at in when we were talking about the last book page, right? The cover, the title, marketing, the blurb, and places to buy it. That's all you need. You have in the right hand or the right column here the newsletter sign up, which is good, and then some new stuff if you want to read more about like on the blog and whatnot. But this is all you need for a book page. Okay, it just looks different than the other ones. Yeah, no, the G is Goodreads. Okay, here's Britt Bennett, The Vanishing Half. This is the whole homepage. Okay, so when you land, a lot of white space, very effective use of the white space. You see a lot of social proof around here, some of it from the Oprah magazine. And then you have order now, learn more, or the book club kit, which is something you can do as some bonus content more people are doing. But for indie authors, less a thing because there aren't a lot of book clubs that use indie author books in their club because they're just not as promoted as much, right? So this isn't an indie page, but this is something that we can leverage as a kind of homepage that we can use. This is a little harder to make than the ones we've been looking at, though. Okay, here's started said a pretty quirky way. Here's a quirky one for you. Mark Dawson writes thrillers, and this is the homepage. This is the whole homepage. And you might be thinking, Doug, this doesn't have the stuff that you've been talking about this whole time. Why do you like it? Because we talk about audience and goals. We know the audience. This is a very thriller looking image. And the goal is to build the email list. Right here, the only thing you can do, aside from navigating the menu, is join the mailing list for updates and your Mark Dawson starter library. That in itself promises that you get multiple things for giving your email. People are much more compelled to fill it out. And this website doesn't really want you to do anything else. Sure, I can go to the books, and this menu is just okay for me, but I can go to the series here, learn more about it, right? This is fine. I click on one of those, you'll find it's the same thing. The same format as everything else, just looks a little bit different. The cover, the title, the blurb, how to buy it, other books in the series, social proof. Okay, and then we hit the end. But really, Mark Dawson's goal here isn't to sell books. It's to build his email list so that he can sell his books via that list. Because one of the best things you can do with your website is collect those emails so you can engage with your readers and create warm leads for your books. So this is a very unique homepage, but for its goal is fantastic. Okay. This one looks so lush. Journey saying risky, but I like it. Yeah, Star is saying this is another you know exactly what you're getting into page, which is fantastic. And Star is saying this homepage is a lot nicer on mobile, and I think that's the point. Just true. I mean, oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me just see. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a true representation of mobile, but if I make it real skinny like that, you can see the formatting changes. A lot of drag and drop builders will do that for you. It does give Dresden File vibes as well, though we don't have anything in here that shows that it's urban fantasy. Okay, this is not an indie author site, but I wanted to highlight Leigh Bardugo because I used Leigh in a lot of things. But as you pop up on this, you'll see we have the hero image. And in this case, Leigh is focusing, or Leigh's team is focusing on her, right? And more about what Leigh is doing as an author. But above the fold, you see, look at all these books that are in the Grishaverse. Or you can scroll down, then you have your new release. And then this is technically a carousel. This is more aesthetics. Find me on Instagram, sign up for Substack, which is interesting. But one of the cool things about this is that the goal isn't necessarily to sell books. The goal is to sell Leigh Bardugo. And when you get sold on Leigh, then you start reading the books. There's also a lot of bonus content in here. Like you can check out the reading order, which is fun if you have an expansive universe. That's something you might want to include on your website. And then this brings you to another website that's all about the Grishaverse. And in that same vein, I love using V.E. Schwab as an example. Not an indie author, but it's interesting because when we look at V.E. Schwab's website here, admittedly, I would tone down the size of the name. But V.E. Schwab has much more of a following, much more recognizable name than me, so they can get away with this. But then you have this hero image, new book, your marketing copy, a bit less of a blurb than we can get away with, but still pretty punchy. And then you can click to go learn about the book. And you'll notice, funnily enough, you have the title, you have marketing copy, you have the image or the cover image, and you have how to buy it. Then you have social proof down here. You'll note that this is exactly the same, admittedly maybe bigger font, than the indie author book pages that we saw. Because no matter who you are, the way that you format a book page on your website is usually the same, and it covers this format. So that's something I want you to take away from this, is that to format a book page on your website, you don't need to do anything revolutionary. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need title, marketing copy. If you're a bestseller, sure, throw that in there. The actual blurb, the cover, and how to buy it. That's it. Yeah, she's a traditionally published author, but the indie authors still did the same format, right? This is an effective book web page format. I don't think V.E. Schwab can overcompensate for anything. She's lovely. Something else to show on the homepage here. This seems innocuous, right? Just a little blurb about V.E. Schwab and this picture. But if you go on like Instagram, if you go to her newsletter, if you go to other appearances, this picture shows up a lot, which is something that we don't really talk about in this workshop, but you want to be consistent with your branding, which means that when you're using a picture of yourself in places, try and get a higher quality one. And honestly, you can get like a friend or relative or your own camera, if it's like an iPhone or a nice Google Pixel or something, you can take a really good quality photo. Just play around, see if you can get a good looking one, because you can, right? Even if you're photo shy, you can get a good looking photo. Or if you have the funds for it, you can get, headshots done or some kind of photo shoot done or something. But be consistent in your branding, and that means using the same set of photos to make sure that you're recognizable wherever you show up. Yeah, that's her. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Here's MD Massey's website, and it's not the most aesthetically pleasing website, but I have written with Mike MD Massey, and I know he makes good money indie publishing, and so let's look at how this website stacks up. You have Not the most thrilling hero image, but again, new release title. For fans of MD Massey, this works. For non-fans, this is a whatever kind of marketing line. You have a little bit about it, and then links to get it. Not even links to go to the book page, and then you can go somewhere else. This is removing one point of friction because I can click this and go right to the Amazon store page. Right below that, get 2 free ebooks. Just tell me where to send them. Name, email, send my free ebooks. This doesn't say sign up. This is more of a value proposition to say, hey, I can give you 2 free things. This tone here, just tell me where to send them, is very in line with Mike's urban fantasy tone. And then boom, you get the stuff. You send my free ebooks, right? And you can phrase this however you want. And we'll look at a couple other examples of how people have phrased it. You scroll down, you have your featured novels, you have your about, and then you have blog updates. Very simple homepage, right? Not a super flashy hero image here, but it gets the job done. And the goal is very clear. Buy a book or sign up for the email list. Okay. Start saying very casual. It is. And this is all I expect from you when you build your own website. Okay. You don't need to do what we're about to look at. Okay. This is Daniel Gibbs. And let me refresh it so that you can see right from the beginning. A video playing here. This is incredibly impressive. You do not ever need this. Okay. Daniel Gibbs has done a lot of work here to make this a very cool, very engaging website. But from an indie author perspective, this doesn't do a lot for a new reader landing on your website. Welcome to the universe of Daniel Gibbs, character-driven military science fiction. That might interest some people, but it's not the same as, boom, new book, compelling copy about the new book. Plus, then we need to scroll down. Now we're getting into stuff that looks familiar. Here's the series. Still on a carousel. I hate carousels. Don't use carousels. God, if there's anything you take away from this workshop, don't use carousels. But we can click on something here. Does this look familiar? Because it should, and I'm going to sound like a broken record here. We have the title, we have the cover, we have copy, we have how to buy it. Okay. And then we have some bonus content here. This timeline is pretty cool, actually, but not necessary. This is just another book page like the other book pages that we've looked at. It's stylistically a little bit different, format-wise, the exact same. And this is the thing you should be using. Let's go back here, though, because one of the things that I do want to point out from Gibbs' website is it's so cool. It's so cool, and you don't have to do this. But what about carousels for articles? Journey, you don't have to do that either. Do the most like recent 3, and then they can navigate from there. Because again, when it comes to a carousel, people are very unlikely to see what the next slide is and are almost never going to see what the third slide is. Star saying he probably commissioned it. Yeah, probably. But here, actually, sorry. Join the fight. Okay. It's not sign up. It's not free books. It's not newsletter. It's join the fight, which is just a very cool marketing way to say sign up for my newsletter. But it's a lot more compelling because it's genre appropriate. People who are into military sci-fi, if they see join the fight, I don't have stats to back this up, but it is a more compelling call to action than sign up. We already get so many newsletters in a day, right? Something like 100 plus newsletters in a day. No one wants to sign up for another newsletter. But as indie authors, one of our biggest goals is to get people to sign up for our mailing list. So if you can do something cool like join the fight, you're going to get a lot more people clicking on that button. Journey, I'm sorry for disappointing you. One of the last things I want to show on here that you can do when you are established, when you have the budget for it, and when you have the time for it, Daniel Gibbs has made this really cool universe page where like we can click on explore the ships, and we can click on this one ship, and like you can hover over parts of the ship to learn more about it. And then there's this whole like encyclopedic entry for what the ship is. Okay. You don't need to do this. I'll repeat that again. You do not need to do this. However, adding bonus content onto your website fulfills one of those other goals we talked about, which is reader engagement. A reader who loves your work can come here and become an even bigger fan of yours, or someone who's a little iffy about whether they're going to buy your stuff can see that there's this much effort put into it, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to dive into this really cool universe. You don't have to, and you should not be doing this because you should be writing books. But if you get to a point where you can do this, bonus content is always nice for that extra little sell. Okay. Here's Tim Sullivan. I'm going to start out by saying that this is a visually impressive homepage, but you tell me what's happening here while I take a sip of my coffee. And I'm still waiting. Okay, we got something. Introducing a new crime filler fix. How long have we been sitting here? A video game trailer, a movie trailer, something. If you don't know Tim Sullivan, you have no idea what's happening here, right? Now, if we scroll down, you start learning more. Tim Sullivan, books, right? Keep scrolling down. About Tim. I'm not a fan of this choppy page floating, but that's a stylistic choice. You might like that. Social proof. Newsletter sign up that's not formatted the best. Blog. So let me scroll back up. Okay, we got there. We got there. I've actually never stared at that for so long that this came up. Okay. So yes, I've left already. Far too long. Visually stunning. Looks really, really cool. But the fact that I sat here, sipped on my coffee, waited longer, then scrolled down, then scrolled back up for this to appear, far too long. Okay. But there are some things that we like on this website. Your call to action is free. It's not sign up. It's not necessarily effective as join the fight, but free. Everyone loves free. Okay. And we're on an author website. Okay. Free book. Cool. Then you have sign up and get a free short story every 6 months. That's pretty compelling. That gives me more incentive than sign up for my newsletter for regular updates. Okay. It doesn't have sound, Athena. Don't worry. If we go to the books here, let's go to the patient. Okay. Guess what? Broken record time. Cover. Title. Series. Blurb. How to get the book. Social proof. Other books in the series. You cannot leave this workshop not knowing how to format a page for your book. Okay, because I'm going to just I'm drilling this into your head because this is how everyone's doing it, indie and traditional. Okay, here we go. Let me refresh this one before I share it. Okay, Wilbur Smith. You'll note we have a loading bar. Visually stunning. This is so cool. This one's not going to change like the last one. This is actually static, and you have the instructions to scroll here. But let me refresh this again. When I told you before that you have like 7 to 10 seconds to get someone to stay on your website, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half our time is gone from the loading screen. Okay. Now it looks cool as you scroll. It's visually stunning, but this is much more effective. Boom, book, cover, blurb, find out more. Okay, I'd rather read now, buy now, whatever. This find out more, let me accept the cookies. Find out more is one of those examples of us not selling ourselves enough. Okay, find out more isn't a very compelling call to action. Read now is much more compelling. Buy now, get now, something that gets them to action it so that they get possession of it. Find out more. Okay, I guess. Right? We keep scrolling. Join the Readers Club. Some more stuff about another book. This is promoting like real life adventures, so something other than books, and then more like some bonus content. Okay. It is a very cool looking website. It is resource intensive, as you saw from the loading screen. And for an indie author, do not do something like this. Okay. Just flat out don't do it. Same thing with the last one. Don't do that kind of thing at the top of your homepage because it's not going to help you. Okay. What is nice is that there's at least the subscribe button here. It's a pop up, so you don't need to load more stuff. But this is a much better homepage than this for our purposes. Okay. Again, for Wilbur Smith, this could be exactly the website that he needs. For us as indie authors, especially early in our journeys, this is what we're looking for. Star always coming in with knowledge to buff up my own. It's a risk reward scenario that most of us don't have the clout to mitigate the risk. Exactly. We are, I don't want to say desperate for readers as early indies, but like we want as many readers as we can get, right? And if we only have a small window of time to convince them to stay, and then we convince them to take a chance on us, we don't have that buffer to risk something flashy like that. And it's also time or money intensive. Oh, NJ saying, to connect with people, can we use our nerdiness on our site? Absolutely. You can. Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you should really focus on when you're building out the style of your site is who you are as an author, right? Who is NJ West and how do I represent that on my website? That's going to come across in your color scheme. That's going to come across in your marketing copy and the words that you choose. It's going to come across in the genres that you write. And you can really emphasize that in the about page and on your blog. Okay. I think, oh yeah, there's one more. One more I want to share here. And we're only going to say nice things. Because this is our very own Abby Matthews. Okay. So when we come to abbymatthews.org, it defaults us to upcoming books. So this is in reference to what Journey was asking before. You can have an upcoming book section where you have stuff about the books coming up. Blurbs, when it's coming, the title. But you'll see, even though it's not available right now, cover, title, marketing copy, right? And then pre-order is coming soon. So that doesn't actually do anything right now because there's no pre-order page, right? But it is everything you need for a book page. Now, there's some other cool stuff going on here too. Abby, I love your logo. If you're still hanging out with us in the chat here, I love your logo. I think it's very tone appropriate and tells us who you are. We have our about page here with Abby, right? And you can contact Abby. And then there's some bonus stuff here, like the Mom Writes podcast, which Abby was a host of. And then Around Town, which is where you can catch up with Abby online. And that's some of the stuff that Abby's been in, which is cool. Like, and you can keep a page like that on your website, right? It's not one of the mandatory ones. You don't need an events appearances or online appearances directory, but it is cool to have. But I only included this one because Abby mentioned her webpage before. DA Brandon, should we have a book finished before we have a website? No, absolutely not. Because, so should we have a book finished before we have a website? No, you should have a website sooner over later, primarily because you want to be building your mailing list as soon as possible. And this is going to warrant its own workshop. I want to do this either in December or like January, February for W Academy. So again, shameless plug for the Academy. I want to do an email marketing and mailing list workshop. And I've been saying that for a bit, but like it's going to happen. Because that is your number one marketing tool. And that's why most places, like if we go back, let's say even to Daniel Gibbs here, join the fight, right? That's our big call to action. We go to MD Massey, get 2 free ebooks, right? Let me go to, where are we at? TA White. If we go to the homepage, sure, you have the book here, but sign up right away. You just want to make sure that you start building that list as soon as possible, because if you start building it sooner over later, then you can easily market your debut novel to people who will actually buy it, rather than getting disappointed if you release a book and no one buys it or few people buy it because no one knows that it's there. Right? A website is the way to build your mailing list. There are other ways you can complement it, but I say get something set up that has, this can be coming soon. This can be about you. This can be the way that Abby did it. If you don't have a cover, then you can put a picture of you, or you can put a picture that's associated with it, or something simple, right? And so for Abby here, I know Abby just redid her website. I would suggest this. We need this up here. We need the newsletter sign up, a button for it up here, because we need to start building that mailing list as soon as possible. Okay. Reed saying, can you give an evaluation on my current soon to be revised website? Maybe that's something that we can do as a bonus indie summer event. Let me take that to the folks behind the scenes and see what we can do, because I don't want to promise that I can do that for you, because I'm a busy man. I've got too many things to do. But if we could do it as a show and collectively, I think that would be some cool content. Okay. And yeah, Journey, black and white photos, aesthetics choice. Absolutely. Okay, let me do that. Okay, so we spent a lot of time looking at that, but I think seeing it in practice is very important, right? But let's get back to the workshop, and let me see if I can navigate my own computer again. Okay, cool. There we go. Damon, I've enjoyed being part of that website critic too. That would be okay. Okay, I'll bring it to the team. Also very aware I got a new power bar for my monitor and my lights, and I keep stepping on it. So if I panic, it's because everything but my computer turned off. Or yeah, as Athena's saying, if there's a website critique post on the cafe, we could peer review them. That would be pretty cool too. Great ideas. I'm gonna star that one. Okay. Okay, bear with me here as I get set back up. Okay. So what did we learn? We learned there's no such thing as a best kind of author website, only one that serves your goals, right? But I want you to think about first impressions. I want you to think about the purpose, and that purpose being your audience and your goals, right? I want you to think about the ease of use and the professionalism. Similar to covers, a lot of indie authors don't know what makes a professional looking website, which is why I'm a big fan of the drag and drop website builders, because they have templates that can really help you set up a good looking website. And with those examples that we just had, and I'll post a list of them over in the Indie Summer community at W Campus. So you can go look at them, but you can look at those and be like, okay, this is what the format looks like. I'm just going to copy that. There is no shame in copying the format of somebody else's website, as long as make it yours, make it have your stuff on it, give it your own style and spin. But the format of it, the way that it's laid out, you saw that the books pages are all the same, because that's the most effective way to do them. So just do that. Does drag and drop cost? Andrew's asking. It does, but again, there are generally some free plans for, I think, Wix and Weebly. Sorry, I had a hiccup there. Okay, let's talk about how we make a good website, though. We make it reader-centric. This is a marketing tenet that anyone who's done any marketing knows this, but you use you when you can. It's all about the reader's journey. We're inviting them to participate rather than just be a customer. We want to stay on brand, which is why you want to think about your tone, your style, your design, color palettes that you have in the workbook that Abby posted yesterday. There is a link to something that can generate color palettes for you, so you don't even have to put too much thought into it. Just hit randomize until you find one that fits your vibes. If you're an Academy member, the recording for this workshop that's in the course library has a worksheet that you can use to build your brand. Formatting is very important. This is why I like the drag and drop ones as well. I'm saying drag and drop now instead of drag and drop. But it has built-in headings, subheadings, bullet points. You want to use shorter paragraphs because, again, we're aiming for that white space, right? The more white space there is, the easier it is for a reader to navigate your website. Social proof, including social proof, is also great. Reviews, comments from blogs that are praising you, awards that you've won. Early on, you're not going to have these, but as you start to get them, as you publish your first book and you start getting those 5-star reviews, collect them and show them off. And if you want to use a carousel, I'll let you use a carousel for this. Okay, a carousel of reviews, fine, go for it. Put the best ones first. But I'll let you, if you need a carousel, do it for the reviews. And then, like I said before, leverage ideas from other authors, or steal ideas from other authors. Use the book page format that everyone's using because it makes the most sense. Use strong hero images with calls to action that look like the ones other people are doing because they work. There's a reason they're doing them. Yeah. You can find a good chunk of branding advice online because it's more business than authorship or books. But yes, you want to do a little bit of research into branding if you want to be a brand expert, right? And there's tons of resources out there. We don't have the bandwidth to go into it here because I'm already an hour and 20 minutes in and I still got some stuff to cover. All right, so we're gonna breeze through this one because we really went in depth with the websites. But the homepage is what people see first. It's your introduction. You have about that 10 seconds to convince people to stay. Okay, you want to be clear and concise. You want to engage your audience. You want to show them immediate value, and you want to make sure that your brand is on point here. Even if we didn't like the green of Fond du Lis's website, that green that shows up when we first land there tells us, hey, this is sci-fi. I'm in the right place if I'm looking for sci-fi. Remember the fold. Remember, depending on the size of someone's screen, what they see immediately will differ. My screen is larger, so what you saw when I was looking at a website might show more than what you see when you look at a website. As Star has pointed out, you want to think about mobile as well. If someone visits your site on a mobile device, they're probably only seeing that hero image at the very top. Your call to action. Okay, let me take a sip of water because I'm about to get passionate. Okay. The whole point of a website is to be a conduit to get our readers to do something else, to reach that goal that we want. If you have a new book out for a while, it's going to be buy my book, right? It's going to be through that hero image, and you might leave it there forever as the hero image going to a book. But the call to action in your header should usually be some kind of sign up for my newsletter. Okay. And it might be join the fight, like Daniel Gibbs did. It might say free if you're giving away free stuff. It might just say sign up, right? Or join the newsletter or what have you. Because the mailing list is our number one marketing tool as indie authors. It is better than everything else. It is better. Advertising can be temporarily more effective, but it's expensive. And again, at the whim of algorithms that we can't control. A mailing list is something that we can control. We control how we interact with people. We control what we send to them. We control how engaged we can make them. So for indie authors, and I can say this pretty confidently, that call to action button in your header should lead to a newsletter sign up form. Could be its own page, could be a pop-up, but I want you to make that a newsletter sign up and start building that mailing list. Depending on the context, you may find something like join the cult. Yes, and you can be genre appropriate. Now, if you're going to be writing in multiple genres, so for example, I'm writing dark and urban fantasy. I don't want to do something that leans too heavily into one genre or series when I plan on having a lot more books, because that might alienate some people. But if you're only writing cosmic horror, then join the cult. Art, right? That's perfect. Get the goods. You know what? It could work. It could work. You want to make it easy for a visitor to see what the call to action is. It should generally be in a colored button that's different than the rest of your header. And you don't want to be misleading. Okay. You don't want to say like 5 free ebooks or something and then only send them one. Okay. We don't lie to them because that's how you like lose trust. And then your mailing list won't do what you want it to. And you'll probably be reported for spam. All right. The placement can make or break a CTA, which is why I strongly suggest you do it in the header. And all those drag and drop website builders have an option to make a header that has the button in it, and that's the one you want to focus on. Your books, your about, your contact, your blog can all go next to it in smaller, less bold font, but that button, save it for the sign up. Uh, Can you alter the theme of your website when you have a new release? Yeah, and as Star says here, you don't want to change the theme of your website per se, but you can change the hero image. So when you release the next book, change the hero image at the top of your homepage from your previous book to that next one. You might change some of the colors to match up with the color of the cover. That's more an aesthetic choice, but like that's more work than you need to do. Right? Okay. The about or bio page, uh, readers love a personal connection with their favorite writers. I don't know why, but like readers want more of that connection than fans of a particular artist or fans of a particular actor. There are parasocial relationships are not a good thing, but people want that connection. So a well-written about page lets a reader get to know you, it lets you humble brag, and it lets them know what you write. Okay. So in your about or your bio page, embrace your author brand. Really lean into the vision that you want other people to see of you. Use personal anecdotes to make yourself personable. And don't fall into that disease of not selling yourself. Highlight your achievements here. Okay. And those achievements might not be exactly what you want them to be at the beginning. Like you aren't a bestseller until you've released a book and it's hit that mark. But you can say, you've been writing since you were X years old. Your short story has been featured in anthology. Whatever it is, find things to use to promote yourself and talk about yourself here. That's the whole point of an about page, is to talk about yourself. NJ, absolutely. Go ahead. Use whatever you want to add that credibility. You're going, as you progress further in your indie author career, you're going to get other accolades that can replace those ones that have a little more social proof, or you're going to get reviews that will lend more weight than, say, a Nano award. But sure, to start out, absolutely go for it. And Journey saying, I have a short bio and a longer one, which is it's something that a lot of people do. Short bio can go in something like a book, or it can go on a social media profile, or it can go in that little about me section further down on a homepage. And then on the about page itself, you can have the longer one that goes into more details. That's true. Athena's pointing out that Nano doesn't have the best association, so some readers might not support that. But bear in mind that Nano's very writer-centric thing. Most readers don't know what Nano was. Reed, you've missed a lot. I don't know how to say that. Your book pages and your descriptions. Okay, I've beat this to death, right? Title, series title if you want it. Cover, blurb, how to buy. That's it. I'm not going to beat this any further because you know what it looks like now. We've looked at so many that you know what your book page is going to look like. It can be a coming soon still, and it might not be a cover. It might be a rectangle that says coming soon that has appropriate colors for your genre, but it's easy enough for you to make what's supposed to go there. One thing to keep in mind, the more clicks something takes, the less likely it is to happen. So when you're putting that call to action on your books page, this is different than your header one. This is the purchase links. You don't want to go through 5 different clicks to get to a purchase link. Have a button that shoots you right to Amazon. Okay. There are ways to build a link that shoots someone to the Amazon local to them. So mine would go to amazon.ca, where someone from the States would go to amazon.com, when someone from the UK would go to co.uk. That exists. I can maybe find that and post it. But really, if you send them to amazon.com, most of the time Amazon will route them appropriately anyway. Your contact page. Okay. Sometimes a fan really just wants to get in touch and say they love this or something spoke to them. It's nice to have. And if someone from the media wants to reach out to you, this is an easy way for them to do it. You want to include your social links if you're on social media. I'd say avoid putting your email on the page because there are bots that are out there that just crawl websites for emails and then will spam the heck out of them. I learned this the hard way. So use a contact form. Yeah, journey contact forms, exclamation mark times 100. Okay, we talked about a media kit before. If you want to make a media kit, at the very least you're going to include your author bio, some high quality images of you and your book covers. That doesn't mean the thumbnail images that you right clicked and saved as. That means the original copies or the oh my goodness, what's the book brush or the book brush renditions where you made a 3D image, include those in there, and then include the high quality headshot that you want associated with you when it's used by the media. And if you have a press release for like a new book that came out or an event, include that in there too. If you don't need a media kit. First of all, remember this wasn't in the 5 essential things that we talked about, but if you do choose to have it, make it easy to find. It can usually live on your contact page. Um, Consider including a contact form. It might be right next to it. And then you can include a plugin that uses a calendar to book things with you for interviews. Again, we're jumping the gun a little bit for indie authors right now, but this is something that you might grow into. Uh, Let me just see. NJ's asking a question here. My first novella was a historic romance, but that's not my usual genre. I prefer fantasy or sci fi or both. How do I advertise my only published work but not make that my only genre? You can be explicit about it. You can do a blog article that explains why you wrote it and why you like this genre, but how you're doing other stuff. It might be something that you wrote and you can promote, but it's not something that you use as like your lead magnet for your mailing list, or it's not something that you actively promote to your fantasy or sci-fi readers. Right? It can still exist. Don't be ashamed of it, but recognize that it's not an effective marketing tool for those readers. I see we're asking for a 5-minute break here. Bear with me for 3 more slides. I'll keep it under 5 minutes, then we'll do a 5-minute break. Is that okay? We'll be quick. The events or appearances page, this is just where you say, hey, what's coming up? Where am I going to be? Include the date and time, a venue, a dress code if it's relevant, itinerary if it's relevant, and ways to purchase tickets. This one, again, is not super common, especially because most of your stuff's going to be online, but it might be something that you want to have. Then in your header, this is, let me go here. You want to consider the order of your header, right? You put your strongest call to action there, your sign up for the mailing list, and then from left to right, consider how you want your stuff ordered. The button will draw eyes to that call to action. Everything else will be read in a reading order by most people. So I tend to go books, about, contact, blog, call to action in the button, sign up. And then the footer gets a lot less love, but the footer is more a form of navigation. You can include links to pages that didn't make it into the header that are still relevant, but you can also include a larger newsletter sign up form there. We saw it in a bunch of the websites that we looked at. It's a small square in the header that says, sign up, a little bit of blurb, and then a space for the email. Not as effective as a newsletter sign up landing page, but if someone's made it down all that way anyway, it could be a way to snag a few more emails. All right. Okay. All right. Before we talk about blog potential, let's do that 5-minute break. All righty. So it is 3:34 by my clock. Let's say we'll reconvene at 3:40 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 minutes and change. I'll see you soon. All right. We got a couple minutes before we restart again, but something I wanted to point out while people are filtering back in is what Star said here is navigation is probably the biggest source of pain point if it's not insanely huge splash images, which is why I want to dial in again for everyone to really understand your focus on audience and goal, specifically goal, right? And it's okay to have kind of two goals at the same time when you're trying to sell a book and get the newsletter sign up, but that's why we have those big bold things to sell them. The hero image with that call to action in the cover, and then the button in the header. Everything else on your website is like, I don't want to say it's window dressing. I don't want to say it's less important, but like 5% of viewers will see it. Right? We really want to direct them when we think about their journey. We want to push them to either buy a book from us or sign up for our newsletter. The other ones, they can engage with bonus content. They can read our blog. They can find out more about us. They can look at the series as a whole. But if you think about why someone's coming to your website, it's to get stuff to read. And so we're either going to try and sell something to them, or we're going to try to get them to sign up so we can engage them and get them to buy stuff in the future. So it is there are multiple, there's a lot of pain points in website design and trying to funnel that customer into the journey that you want. And that's a whole career discipline, right? With multiple different avenues that you can go down. But for indie authors, you really want to focus on those two big goals, is getting someone to buy your book or getting them to sign up for your newsletter. Athena's asking, what do we think about using AI to create a website? I hear in business it's a really good resource, but not sure how it would work for authors. It has been 5 minutes now, Journey. We were just chatting. But as far as AI, I think that that's a personal choice, whether you want to use it or not. There might be very good website creation tools out there that use AI. This is a workshop, not a Doug opinion session. So I like having more control over things, right? And AI takes away some of that control or requires iterations that I don't want to go through. And if you know what you want to do and it doesn't take a lot of time to learn how to do it, you get those skills added to your inventory of skills. You're able to make changes in the future when you want to make changes, and you get exactly what it is that you want. So I'm not going to say that there aren't any good AI website building tools out there. I just don't know of them. So I'm not the right person to ask. Okay, let's get this back up here. Okay, so what about a blog? When it comes to a blog, there's two different ways that you can approach it. First, content creation, which is things that you write, post, or share on your website to engage visitors and ultimately drive them to a call to action. Or content marketing, which is when you're using created content tuned for SEO to increase your visibility across the internet and attract new visitors. As an indie author, we're focused on content creation. Content marketing is possible for indie authors. However, if you really want to be successful with content marketing and leveraging the power of SEO to find new people, that's a very long game that you're playing, and it takes a lot of hours away from when we should be writing. Because realistically, for most of us, we are balancing a 40+ hour a week job. We're balancing family and friends and pets and children and external commitments and bills and part-time jobs and what have you, a million different things, and we're trying to squeeze our writing in between the cracks whenever we can. And I always say writing revolves around life, right? So we make it work when we can. To add on content marketing in a way that's actually going to pay you back for the effort that you're putting in requires a lot more time than people have. And if you try and make that time, you're probably going to burn out. And realistically, it's not super effective for an author to content market because the audience is so niche, right? When it comes to content creation, though, that's creating stuff to engage us with our readers. It's to be like, hey, this author's a real person. This is where, when NJ asked before, this is where we show off our nerdy stuff. This is where we show off stuff that they're interested in that makes us seem more human, because we are. And it gets people more engaged with us as authors, so they're more primed to want to read our books in the future. Yes, and as Star said, Star opinion time. I feel like blogs aren't a get new folk thing; they're a keep current folk interested thing, which is the case for indie authors especially, right? Uh, yeah, Journey. I wouldn't recommend that either. Okay, so actually, before we get into that, one of the biggest pieces of pushback that I get when I say, you should be making a blog or you can make a blog is what the heck am I supposed to write about on my blog? And when you think about it from a content creation point of view, it opens up a lot more doors than when you're thinking about it from a content marketing point of view, right? When I started my indie author journey, I approached it from a content marketing point of view. Now that paid off because that ended up getting me a job writing, doing content marketing with Dabble, and one thing led to another, and that's how I'm here today. So that did ultimately pay off. I cannot promise you that if you embark on content marketing for your author website, you're going to end up with a really cool job like the one I get to have. It also runs into the roadblock that a lot of content marketing that you think of as an author is about, like how to write, right? Different structures, writing practices, writing habits, character development, that kind of stuff. Readers don't care about that. When we're doing content creation, we can be more flexible and write about things that readers care about. So, what content can we make? We're going to rapid fire this. Work in progress updates, book reviews of books that you've read, music playlists that go along with chapters or books, character interviews, life events that you experience and want to share with people, your author journey, where you've been, where you're going, what's next, etc. Fan art. I still haven't received any fan art, but I'm just waiting for the day. Deleted scenes, bonus chapters, reading lists, event highlights, guest posts, your process, your writing habits, your writing routine, what have you, contests that you're running, giveaways that you're running. When it comes to giveaways, check laws. Okay, there are laws around giving things away in a contest format. So just make sure you're abiding by those. Collaborative projects that you're doing, a reader Q&A, character profiles, different than the interviews, reader reviews that you want to highlight, and upcoming events. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff that you can do, and I guarantee there's like 20 more things that you could probably think of if you took a few minutes to think of them. The really cool thing is that all of this stuff is also content that you can use for your mailing list, for the newsletters that you're going to be sending out, ideally at least once a month. So when you look at this whole cloud of ideas, if you're aiming to post one blog update a month to go along with your newsletter, then you can easily come up with like 4 years worth of content just from these things, right? Work in progress updates you can do multiple times a year. Reader or character profiles, character interviews, music playlists, like these are things that can repeat because you have multiple characters, you have multiple chapters that you can make playlists for. um uh Star is just I don't Star is like on the same wavelength as me. Deleted scenes are fun, yes. And Renee, yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can absolutely do that, and that's something that readers are very interested in, right? Things that didn't make the cut. If you're going to do that, you don't need to get it professionally edited, but make sure that you put in the same work to make it easy to read and like pleasant to read as you would your actual work. Okay, so if you're going to do a blog, and like you certainly can, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great way to engage readers. Understand that you're doing content creation and you're doing things for reader engagement. You're not doing things to attract new readers. Even today, it's questionable whether no, it's not questionable. Blogs cannot drive the same SEO traffic today as they could 5 or 10 years ago. Especially with the growing presence of AI being used for search and for answering things. um, it's a changing landscape, so you don't even want to go there. You want to make things to engage the people you have on your mailing list, to engage the people that have read your books. Fan fiction can be fun too, NJ. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see why not. Okay. On that note, though, I want to quickly talk about search engine optimization. I don't want to dwell on it for too long because we are approaching that 2-hour mark. So we're probably going to go closer to 2.5 hours. I apologize. Spent a lot of time looking at websites, but I think it was very helpful doing that. So we're just going to breeze through this because this is not something as indie authors I want you to spend too much time on. I want you to focus more on the goals and the audience, and the journey you want that audience to go on when they land on your website. And I want you to just keep writing your next book. Okay. Because a website is very important for your marketing and for your indie author journey. It is the conduit to make your mailing list, it's the conduit to engage readers, and it's a way to sell books. But that is all secondary to writing your next book. The best thing you can always do for your author journey is to write another book. So bear that in mind. Don't dwell too much on SEO. So, do you need to know SEO? Unfortunately, yes, but fortunately, only to a degree. SEO helps with discoverability. As Star just said in the chat there, it's the attracting new folk bit. But SEO practices also help with user experience and navigation. It establishes credibility, and it can result in sales. Okay, I should put an asterisk there, big asterisk. It's not guaranteed, but it can. Understanding like keywords, for example, keywords are words or phrases that someone might punch into a search engine to discover new content. Okay. You can figure out your best keywords for your subgenre. So if you're writing dark fantasy, then you can go and look up, keywords for dark fantasy, and it will include dark fantasy, but it'll also include, horror, magic systems, that kind of stuff. You can use that to help guide some of the content that you make. And then that kind of stuff might start ranking in Google. It probably won't rank very high because you don't have a consistent marketing approach to it, but there is no harm in letting some keywords guide some of the content creation that you make. Okay? But again, this workshop was more designed for all authors, and traditionally published authors can use SEO and content marketing to try and get more sales, especially nonfiction authors. If you are a nonfiction indie author, then you want to pay more attention to SEO because you might have a concerted content marketing campaign that you want to run. But for most indie authors, not the case. Sorry, I got distracted by Star. Okay. So how do we optimize for SEO? This is something that is more important for you making your website as an indie author. Title tags. You want to make sure that when you are creating like a blog post, you're appropriately tagging the title with the title header. And that way Google can index it, or other search engines and even AI can index it as the title for something. And that helps weigh it differently when it's trying to display or deciding when to display those results. Okay. On top of that, you have meta descriptions. These are behind the scenes, essentially, descriptions of what the page is about. And it's when you Google something, the meta description is often what comes up underneath the title in the search result. Header tags are also important, not just for SEO this time around, but it is an SEO kind of tactic. So header tags, you're going to have different header levels. God, I'm going to mix up these words in a second. You have like header 2, header 3, header 4, and these are what you're going to use to structure content like blogs to nest headings within one another. So you can have header 2 being, the main category of something you're talking about in a blog, and then so it might be best novel writing software, right? And if you write an article, okay, if you write an article saying what every author needs, then you might have a header 2 that says best novel writing software, and then header 3, Dabble, and then a description of Dabble. And then another header 3 is saying something else that I'm not going to mention because you only need Dabble. And then another header 2 might be, best keyboards for writers. And then you go on from there. Alt text. This is also an SEO thing. For when you include an image, you include alt text that describes what it is, so that the little bots that help with SEO and help rank things in search engines can understand what the image is. However, alt text is also very important from an accessibility standpoint. If someone has a visual impairment, they might rely on software or a tool that describes an image that they can't see when they're browsing the web page. So it will read the content for them, but if that software gets to an image, if you don't include alt text, then the person experiencing your website will have no idea what that image is. Internal linking makes navigating your website easier for both of the user, not the use, my apologies, and Google's little creepy crawlies. So you want to make sure that things that you link to other pages in your website are actually functioning. So be aware when you are linking from one page to another, if you change the URL of the page you're linking out to, that link will break. And the more broken links you have on your website, the less favorable you are to Google. And yeah, Star, you're right there. Might be worth looking at your color scheme for color blindness filters and just general like legibility or readability. Right? Some people cannot distinguish colors the same way that you or I might be able to. And yep. No. And then the URL structure. This is an SEO thing, but just a best practices thing. I cannot stand when if it's like, you know, journeybloomfield.com slash best dash writing dash 5492QXYZ whatever, right? You can create the URLs that pages you create have. So make sure that they aren't just randomly generated or they don't look weird. Like make them make sense. Okay. Some best advice for content creation: find your niche, update it regularly, and regularly does not mean multiple times a week. It doesn't even mean weekly, but updating it monthly is better than doing 3 updates in 1 week and then not touching it for 6 weeks, right? So I advise a monthly schedule if you're doing content and that really lines up with your newsletter, which you should be doing at least once a month. Once a month is fine because you should be writing. And don't overdo it. Burnout's real, right? And the best thing you can do is write your next book. As far if you do go the content marketing route, again, most of you, 99.9% of the people who have watched this should not do that, but you want to optimize your keywords. You want your website to be linked from external sources. Search engines love that. And you want to make sure that what you're producing is quality. This is, let me take a sip of water before I say this. I cannot tell you how many articles I've gone and read that are clearly just AI generated nonsense, right? So if you're going to do either a content marketing or just a content creation approach with your website, don't use AI to do it. I'm not here to moralize at you about AI. You can come up like that's for a different conversation. But I want you, if you're going to do this, even if it's once a month, put effort into it to make sure it's of a quality that represents the author you want to be. And if you use AI to assist you in that, that's your prerogative. But if you just take raw AI output and put that up as an article or as bonus content or what have you, it's going to reflect poorly on you. Google's going to recognize it as poor quality material and not rank it as well if that's what if that's what's important to you. And readers aren't going to enjoy it, and they might unsubscribe if they see something that is of dismal quality. Okay, I want to quickly talk about maximizing your website's potential as well. We're going to try and get as close to 4 o'clock as possible. This is our last section before the Q&A. So, build your mailing list. How I've beleaguered this point a lot throughout this workshop, but I cannot talk about it enough. Your mailing list is your most important tool. And if you don't have anything out right now for people to buy, you should be focusing on your mailing list a lot. If you have a book out, again, use the hero image on your homepage to direct people to it, but save the spot in your header for a sign up for your mailing list because that will lead to long-term success. it is very nice for someone to go and buy your first book and give you those few dollars in royalties. It is so much better to get them on your mailing list so that they can buy all the 40 books you're going to write in your lifetime, right? That's a lot more than a few dollars. And they're going to tell their friends, they're going to become engaged, they're going to become super fans, what have you. Your mailing list is so, so important. Some platforms like Squarespace have built-in email newsletter features. Some you might want to look at MailerLite. Is it still called MailerLite? Yeah. ConvertKit is now just called Kit or Convert. I can't remember. They changed their name, but those are some options out there. Look into the one that's best for you. I have a resource somewhere. I think it's from Reedsy. Maybe it's from Kindlepreneur that ranks the best email newsletter tools for indie authors. I'll find that and post that in the community as well. But next week, Hank and Abby are talking about newsletters for Indie Summer. Very excited for that because it's so important. They also have a special guest that they'll be interviewing, Jason Anspach, I believe. And he has this newsletter and direct sales strategy that, in Hank's words, has launched them into the stratosphere. So I'm really excited for that because that is a big trend for indie authors is direct sales, but just the newsletter engagement. If you can get an engaged mailing list, you are going to have indie author success. Great question here. Okay, first, Journey. Are there any good free newsletter sites out there or inexpensive? I do believe MailerLite has a free program or free package up to a certain limit. And I think ConvertKit or whatever they're calling themselves now has the same thing, but it's a lower limit. Either way, it's a great way to get started. And yeah, they have them. Star is asking if you're doing a blog and mailing list combination, how would it be best to distribute information between each? The best way, if you well, sorry, I know that you get the Academy newsletters. So what I do in there is if I want to share an article, often I'm linking to a workshop or something, but give a little like analogy or a little tale to go along with the content you created that teases it a little bit and then link to it. So use it as a starting point to have a 50 to 100, maybe 200 word blurb in your newsletter that then encourages them to go and read the content. That's the best way to do it. Star, I cannot because you said Doe, not Doug. Yes, I can. MailerLite and ConvertKit. You know what? I have the entire internet at my disposal while I'm doing this. So I can actually look up to see what ConvertKit. Okay, yeah, so ConvertKit just became Kit. And then there are other options out there, but these are the most popular ones. And they're partly most popular because of brand recognition and, first to market kind of stuff, but they've been proven to be popular and effective among indie authors. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So again, this warrants its own workshop or like series of workshops. So we'll come back to that in a future thing, but really pay attention next week for the video and the interview that's coming up. It's going to be very exciting. The other thing that you can do is monetize your website, right? There are a few ways that you can do this. One, direct sales. Direct sales are becoming more and more popular. We even had some folks talking about it at the beginning of this workshop. It gives you an opportunity to personalize orders. You can sell limited edition or signed copies. And most importantly, Amazon doesn't take a cut, which means that if you sell your ebook for $4.99, you're getting like $4.85 or something, right? Whatever the fee is that Shopify or your built-in store takes, they get a tiny percentage. It is much less than Amazon's like 30 to 60% take. And actually, before we go on, direct sales also warrants its own workshop. And so we're going to do, in my mind, a little sneak peek into W Academy, we're going to do the newsletter and email marketing workshop, and then a little bit after that, we'll do a direct sales workshop to build off of it. Okay, merchandise. I mean, don't go out and just make merch now. It can be something that you can do if you cultivate an engaged audience. You can sell merchandise through your website, through the platform tools or third-party integration. You're going to want to do quality control testing on this, make sure that it's good stuff because it is representing you. But it is another avenue that you can monetize through your website. And memberships. And I think Star mentioned this. I have a website somewhere about making your website a Patreon alternative. But I don't know if that's so useful for the purposes of most folks here. What you do see growing in popularity, I don't know if I'd say it's super popular right now, but people will do that kind of thing. They'll have a monthly membership and they will release serialized short stories on their website. And it's gated behind a paywall. And it's the same thing. We have the tools now available to us that let us do things that we had to do through third parties before. Okay. Bear with me for a sec. And so you have a lot of platforms, and I think Squarespace does this or has the capacity to do this. Anything that has a membership option, you can do this on your website and release chapter by chapter every month, or a short story every month, or what have you. Maybe it's something tangentially related to your writing that you do as a membership option to keep people engaged and monetize the community that you've created. This isn't the most popular thing, but more and more people are doing it. You even have, I think there's a website called Ream that does this sort of thing. It's like Patreon, but specifically for authors and short stories, I believe. So, and sorry, NJ is saying merchandise for your books, like a T-shirt that has your book cover on it, or your book art, or a blurb from a line from your book, or a mug that has your book art on it, those kinds of little things. I don't want to say nothing things because they're cute, they're fun, but they're for the fans, right? The biggest holdup or the biggest caution with membership options through your website, you need to hold up your end of the bargain. If you're going to be charging people monthly, you need to deliver monthly, and you need to deliver high quality stuff that is worth the cost of a monthly subscription. Okay. And that brings us to the end of this workshop. We have some time, only 6 minutes over 4 o'clock. Look at me go. I'm impressive, if I do say so myself. But we have some time reserved here for Q&A. So if you have any questions that you want answered, go ahead, drop them in the chat now. We got some time, as much time as we need. If you can't hang around for the Q&A, I will say quickly, remember, this is a workshop that I have done before for W Academy, and I do monthly live workshops on different bespoke topics, and you get access to all of those workshop recordings. Currently, over 40 hours of them. You get access to a growing course library I get to record the courses, so I'm very biased here, but I adore making those courses. And I think the content in them is so good. There are some free ones over at w.com that you can check out before taking the plunge, but you get the growing library there. You get access to office hours. You get to join our W Academy community inside W Campus. And there we do cool weekly events. You get the bonus newsletter, you get extra resources. It's just an excellent time. And, it's my job to be Dean of the W Academy. So you get more Doug. Who doesn't want that? Okay. I'm going to just make this my face now and see what's going on in the chat here. NJ saying, can we see your website, Doug? It's being made currently, so the one that exists is not one that I'm super in love with. But that said, if we don't judge too hard, I've got to be practicing what I preach. So So here's mine. You have your header image. In the new one, we have a cover. This is a little more left justified, a little easier to read. And in the new one, this is sign up for the newsletter. You scroll down, you have my books here. And then sign up for the newsletter. You have what's new, but really this is outdated, so this needs to be updated. Stuff from the blog, and then some other links down here that truthfully the size of these is abhorrent. So don't judge me for that. And then that link just shoots you over to the Amazon link. But I'm not here to promote myself. So there we go. Okay. I better not see carousels on there. Attorney says no carousels. Okay. So DA Brandon's asking, where can I get my own website at? Again, I would start with Weebly or Wix have free options, I do believe. Squarespace has a free trial option. It's a little more expensive, but has better customer service than the other two, and it looks like it's more like the Apple of the drag and drop website builders, but the other ones you can make really good looking websites on too. And Star saying, and I saw this before, someone else mentioned this, Canva has the option to host a website now as well. I haven't explored that, but you can use the different templates to make web pages. Like you can use PowerPoint sized slides that make web pages, and they can link to one another. It's a unique way of doing it. I don't know enough about it to speak to it, but yes, that is an option. So where? Okay, let me keep scrolling here. Star saying, major caveat with the free website builders and hosts, often the trade-off may involve they're posting ads, including made with X banners on your page. X being their name, not Twitter. Yes, but if a budget is everyone should be mindful of their budget. I'm very strong advocate for indie authors being mindful of their budgets because it can get quite expensive. So if you don't have the budget to pay for the monthly expense, then that's a small price to pay, but it is something to be aware of because some people hate that. Okay. Okay, this is an excellent question that Renee said afterwards. Without a published book, I was going to try to use the blog to gain subscribers, but if blogs are only for retaining, how am I supposed to get new subscribers? And this is a tough one because if you don't have anything out there, how are people supposed to find you? Right? It's not an easy thing to solve. So this is, let me make sure I'm articulating this the right way. The first thing you do, even if you have nothing else, you're going to start with the sign up, and it will be like, stay up to date with what's going on, including new releases, and more about my writing, right? Very simple, not the best marketing line, right? But it's something. And some people will passively add their emails as they come across your blogs or someone recommends it to them. Then what you're going to want to do, sorry, I'm trying to think, I really want to articulate this the right way. You have two options. You either just keep writing that first book and then acknowledge that, hey, it's my first book, it's not going to hit bestseller status, and I'm going to build from here. Or you pause your work on your first book and you write something that can be a lead magnet. That can be a short story, right? If it's 5,000 to 7,000 or 3,000 to 7,000 words long, you might be able to write and revise that in the span of a month, maybe shorter. Get it beta read. If the budget allows, get it copy edited, and then you can use that as a lead magnet. Sign up for my newsletter, get a free short story to your inbox, and get and keep track of my writing journey or whatever. So that, I think that would be the best thing that you could do if you haven't released your first book, is pause for a little bit if you can, right? Sometimes just the creativity is flowing too much. You need to be writing this story. I get that. But if you can pause, write a short story to use as a lead magnet. Better than a short story is a novella, right? People just love the more free stuff people can get if it's of high quality, the happier they are. So novellas are better lead magnets than short stories, but that requires a longer pause to write and revise and get that to the standards that you want it to be. So during the 60-day novel challenge, for example, I didn't have a novella for my newsletter lead magnet. So in the 60-day novel challenge back in October and November, that's what I wrote. And it ended up being short novel length rather than novella length. But when this new website goes up, I'm going to be using that as my lead magnet to start pulling in more people. But a short story is perfectly fine and will get you started as you're writing that first book. Okay. Oh, the chat's been a bumping. uh, And as Star pointed out, combining it with social media is a good way to do it too. If you're good at taking photos or making aesthetically pleasing things, Instagram. If you like making videos, TikTok. You can make YouTube videos to get your name and your face out there, or not your face. You can do a faceless account as well. But it's a time payoff, right? And as Journey says, basically bribe them with stories. And that's the thing. This is why why your mailing list is so important, because a mailing list is a direct line. An email is a direct line of communication with the reader. And so they are far less likely to give you your email than they are to follow you on social media. But it is so much more valuable to get that email than it is to get that follow. But we have to earn that email. And the best way to earn it is to give them something that they want, a short story or a novella. Um, and then we can prove to them, hey, I'm creating stuff that is worth your time that you really like. And then they engage with you, then they follow you. If you don't have time for a short story, maybe the first chapter or two of your book, right? You can say Selena's rough draft, but get a sneak peek into what I'm writing and use that as your lead magnet. That's how I started with mine, using the first chapter of my book. Oh yeah, and DA Brandon here. See, I'm trying to catch up on the chat, but y'all are so chatty today, and I love it. Keep it up. But yes, first chapter as a lead magnet, absolutely. Just make sure before you do that, take a pause in your drafting to revise that first chapter, make it as pretty and the prose as great as you can before using that as a lead magnet. Because remember, your lead magnet is a reflection of who you are. And so the quality has to be a reflection of the writing that you want to show the world. Uh, NJ asking, what would you recommend to put at the top of the web page if it is not a book? Then let me gonna pull up Abby's again, because Abby doesn't have a book ready to go yet, right? But her website defaults to the upcoming books one, and so you can have a blurb for your upcoming books, or you can have something that says, it can be more of an about section, right? And instead of just saying about Abby Matthews, it can say, you know, use this middle grade mayhem here, middle grade mayhem, and then talking about not just you, but the books that you write. Right? And then down here, it can be the email newsletter sign up, grab the first chapter of my upcoming new release. Boom, just like that. And this is small enough that it fits above the fold on basically everything. Yeah, and as Ernie said, just a header with my name and website slogan thingy, the slogan / logo. And if you want to keep your face out of it, then I'll try and find some examples of other ones that do this. But actually, B. Schwab here, right? So pretend that this wasn't a picture here, and you just had smaller header, middle grade mayhem, blurb about you, maybe blurb where this is, and then email sign up here with the get a free chapter or first chapter for free. Slow go. My website avoids pictures of me for safety reasons. That's also something a lot of indie authors don't want their photo out there, especially before you start having more books out there and are more recognizable, and you can build that confidence. But some people never want a picture of them out there. So yeah, so in that case, you use formatting to your benefit. Have a nice header, choose nice colors and fonts, and then space it out so that it has the description of you and then the email newsletter sign up. For the viewer's safety. Oh yeah, or you can do something like Mark Dawson's. Right? This has no copy on it. So you can, if you've commissioned some art, or you can use some royalty-free art, look for a CC0 license or CC0. I'll put that in there. Creative Commons license. That is a kind of image that you can use without, in most cases, attributing the artist or the photographer, and you can use it without paying royalties. So yeah, you can do something like this. This is such a cool, bold homepage. I don't have the confidence to do that, but maybe I should try it one day. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. As Star says here, Mark Dawson's doesn't show a book, but it helps greatly for the mood setting. That's it. Remember, think about your audience and think about what you want them to do. Your audience is expecting a certain tone. If you're writing fantasy, then do some kind of whimsical, magical background. Or if it's dark fantasy, something darker. If it's horror, something scary. If it's sci-fi, something techy. If it's romance, you want, softer things, people embracing, or something more romantic, right? Okay. Oh, man. I wish I could remember the name. Hold on. Bear with me for a sec. I'm going to see if I can find. I should be able to find it real quick. It's driving me insane. We're at the casual part of the workshop, so this kind of delay is okay. I say so. The name's on the tip of my tongue, too. This is almost there, almost there. Okay. I think it's Destiny Salter who I'm talking about. Is it? No, it's not Destiny. Okay, I'm gonna have to find this elsewhere because even though this is the casual part of it, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Yeah, nope, I'll find it elsewhere and I'll post it in the community. My apologies for that. Okay. But for NJ's question here, let me put my face back like that. I would, if you're writing for different pen names, then yes, a different website, and they can connect in the header. You can, or it can be in like the book drop down menu. If you're writing fantasy, but you're also writing romance, then it can be books, list your books, and then romance books, and that shoots you off to a different website. Or it can be your pen name in the header as well that shoots you off to a different website. But yeah, if you're writing different pen names, different websites are better. If you're writing different genres under the same name, you can still make that work on the website. Okay. Okay. This is most wretched. All right, folks. I think that is it. I think we've covered all the questions. And my throat's starting to get to that scratchy point where it's like, Doug, your workshop's gone on for too long. So if there are any other questions, feel free to post them over in the Indie Summer community group, and I'll check that out for the rest of the week. Make sure if there are any that pop up, I can drop an answer. I am hosting writing sprints tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, our regularly scheduled writing sprints. So please join me for that one. Again, next week is all about email marketing, your newsletter, and your mailing list with that really great interview talking about direct sales and email marketing. So I'm really excited for that one. And as always for Indie Summer, there is the Friday Q&A session with Hank and Abby. Other than that, thank you so much for being such an engaged and fun audience. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you for catching up with us. I hope that you learned a great deal of things, but I hope you learned at least one thing too. And if that one thing is no carousels except for reviews, then I'll take that. If it's how book pages should be formatted, I will take that. But I hope you are feeling more confident about creating your own author website from this workshop, because that is the ultimate goal. You might not feel like you're immediately ready because you're going to have to play around, you're going to have to learn a few things, but I hope that you are more confident and you are more willing to approach this task so that you can get started on your indie author journey. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I will hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye for now.